The Longest Day was Hollywood's first film detailing the Allies' June 1944 landings on the beaches of Normandy, France. This 1962 American epic war movie was based on Cornelius Ryan's 1959 nonfiction book that had the same name. The book was an instant success, and it got its title from a sentence that was said by Field Marshal Rommel to his aide a few weeks prior to the Normandy invasion. Eventually, the film was able to fall into the hands of producer Darryl Zanuck, and he purchased it for $175,000. This was just a dream come true for Zanuck. He had envisioned on making a movie about D-Day for years. Zanuck's friend Elmo Williams took it upon himself to write the film treatment, which outlined the film in really great detail. This piqued the producer's interest in the project even more so, and he graciously tied Williams to the movie, hiring him as an associate producer and coordinator of the battle scenes. Now, Cornelius Ryan was also brought in to write the screenplay, but immediately he started having conflicts with the director. And Williams was actually forced to act as a mediator between the two to keep the peace. He would actually deliver Ryan's script pages to Zanuck and then return them later with notations and observations. Zanuck brought in additional writers for cleanups for the various nationalities in the film. He also realized that with 8 battle scenes, shooting would be accomplished much more effectively if he used multiple directors to work simultaneously. So he hired a German director, a British director, and a Hungarian-American director to help direct the scenes. He also believed that this would create a more sympathetic understanding to each of the different nationalities involved. The film also employed several German and Allied military advisors and consultants who had actually been participants in D-Day. The movie was actually made in black and white to allow archive footage to be included. This gave the movie a documentary feel. It also was felt that the stars would appear younger. 20th Century Fox executives were nervous when Zanuck decided to film this in black and white. And they asked him how that people were going to distinguish this from newsreel footage. And he replied to them, "Don't worry about that. I'll put a star in every shot." With a budget of $10 million, this was the most expensive black and white movie ever made until 1993, when Schindler's List was released. The fleet scenes were filmed using 22 ships of the U.S. Sixth Fleet during maneuvers off Corsica in June of 1961. The cameras had to be careful to avoid shooting the area where the fleet's aircraft carriers were positioned, since there were no aircraft carriers participating in the invasion. During the filming at the landings at Omaha Beach, extras appearing as American soldiers didn't want to jump off the landing crafts into the water. They thought that the water would be too cold. Robert Mitchum became disgusted with their apprehension, so he jumped in first, at which point they followed his example. The Rupert paradummies used in this movie were far more elaborate and lifelike than those that they actually used in the decoy parachute drop, known as Operation Titanic. These were simply canvas burlap sacks with a little makeup that were filled with sand. While they were clearing a section of the Normandy beach, the crew unearthed a tank that had been buried in the sand since 1944. Mechanics cleaned it off, repaired it, fixed it up, and it was used in the movie as part of the British tank battle scenes. There were no gliders from the actual invasion that were available at the time of filming, so the director ordered duplicates from the same company that had built the originals. The crickets that are demonstrated by John Wayne and those used during the actual invasion were made by J. Hudson and Company, a whistle manufacturer out of Birmingham, England. Today, the company still produces an exact replica of the crickets using the original tooling from then. Now, the movies is one of the first World War II movies produced by an American studio in which the members of each country spoke their dialogue in the language of that country. The Germans spoke German, the French spoke French, and the Americans and the British spoke English. Subtitles appeared at the bottom of the screen in translating the various languages. Although The Longest Day is an American film, English is not spoken until 10 minutes into the movie. A second version of the movie has all the actors speaking English throughout, and this is a very lesser-known version of the film. The film first premiered in France on September 25th, 1962, followed by the United States in October, and then in the United Kingdom shortly after that. The film won 2 Academy Awards and was nominated for 3 others. Now let's talk about the cast a little bit. The film features a large international ensemble cast. It features 6 Academy Award winners: Red Buttons, Sean Connery, Henry Fonda, Edmund O'Brien, Rod Steiger, and John Wayne, plus 11 more Academy Award nominees, including Eddie Albert, Richard Burton, Sal Mineo, Robert Mitchum, and Stuart Whitman. And several of the stars were veterans of World War II, including Rod Steiger, Eddie Albert, and Henry Fonda. The leading role of Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Vandervoort was turned down by William Holden. He was just totally exhausted after filming Satan Never Sleeps, The Counterfeit Traitor, and The Lion. All of these were released in 1962. Charlton Heston actually sought the role, but the last-minute decision of John Wayne to take the role prevented him from getting it. The director, Zanuck, had been quoted in an interview as saying that actors had no business forming their own production companies. And in that, he actually cited John Wayne and the production of his movie The Alamo as a 1960 example of a failed venture. John Wayne found out about the interview and wasn't happy at all. And all of this took place before Zanuck approached him to actually appear in The Longest Day. He initially refused to do it. Then he made just outrageous demands. He wanted $250,000 for his role in the film. The other lead actors were only being paid $25,000. But John Wayne received his requested salary. He also insisted on getting separate billing instead of the usual practice in movie credits of starting off with starring John Wayne followed by the other actors. The credits began with starring the other actors and ending with John Wayne. John Wayne's name, therefore, appears last and separately on the credits, but it met the separate billing clause in the contract. This was Sean Connery's last film appearance before being cast in the role of James Bond. During production, he would ask that his scenes be filmed early and quickly so that he could get to Jamaica in time to star in Dr. No. At the same time, Richard Burton and Roddy McDowall were so bored and frustrated because of the numerous delays during the filming of Cleopatra that they phoned the director Zanuck and begged to do anything to be in his film. They actually flew themselves from Rome to each day's filming location for their cameos for free. McDowall ended up in a small role as an American soldier, and Burton took on the role of an RAF pilot. Now, the former president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, was actually considered for the role of himself in the film, and he actually expressed a willingness to do it. The makeup artist decided, however, that they couldn't make him appear young enough to play his World War II self. The role of General Eisenhower eventually went to Henry Grace, who was a set decorator with no acting experience. though he had actually been in the film industry since the mid-1930s. It was his remarkable resemblance to Eisenhower that got him the role. According to Eisenhower's grandson, David, his grandfather watched movies for pure enjoyment. He didn't really like movies that shared a message. It's said that he never watched a movie about World War II, and that he actually walked out of The Longest Day after sitting down to watch it after just a few minutes because he thought it was so historically inaccurate. Though the film received favorable reviews upon its release, it could not escape its share of criticism. From the Hollywood actors being a lot older than the actual soldiers that they were portraying, to the numerous historical inaccuracies, this film could have quite easily been discarded. On the other hand, there's no other World War II film that not only chronicles, but honors the outcome of human planning, ingenuity, and sacrifice in overcoming an evil enemy. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.